Hi professors, so today we're going to be making wacky cake, and throughout the video I'll be teaching you how to make wacky cake step by step, all the ingredients that you need and everything you need to do to make wacky cake. So first things first, we have to preheat the oven. So we're going to preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we will go on to our ingredients. So first things first, we're going to need 1 cup of white sugar, and we're going to need 1.5 cups of flour, and then we're going to need 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Then we're going to need 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and a 4th teaspoon of salt. So as you can see here, I put them all in one little bowl, but I put them separately. We're also going to need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Not only will the vanilla add warmth, but also depth to the cake. And here we also have 5 tablespoons of melted butter and 1 teaspoon of vinegar. And we will be also adding 1 cup of water, which will add a more rich flavor to the cocoa powder. So instead of mixing the ingredients in a bowl, we're just going to mix it directly in the pan that we're going to use to bake the cake, which is pretty cool considering, this is the first time I would ever actually mix the ingredients in the actual pan. So first things first, we are going to mix all the dry ingredients. So as you can see here, I'm adding the 1 cup of white sugar, the 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. All-purpose flour is best used for cakes as it has less protein, which means it won't be as dense or chewy compared to bread. And also I will be adding the 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, followed by the baking soda, baking powder, and then the 4th teaspoon of salt. And for the baking soda and baking powder, we're using 1 teaspoon each. So you just add that to the mixture. Also, you want to sift all the ingredients. As you can see, I forgot to sift them first. So I just put all the ingredients in a separate bowl. And I'm going to add it back to the pan because we want to mix all the ingredients in the pan. Also, we sift the flour to help promote consistency in the recipe, as in we want to remove all those large particles. As you can see, there's like a bunch of lumps, and we don't want that. We want a nice smooth batter and cake. So we're going to sift this, so we can just skip this process. You don't need to see me sifting all the flour, or dry ingredients rather. And the reason why we whisk the dry ingredients separately from the wet ingredients, so this way we don't overmix our batter later on, because if we overmix our batter, it will result in a strong gluten network, which will make our cake chewy like bread. So by mixing the dry ingredients first, we minimize the formation of bonds between gluten proteins in the cake. So here, as you can see, I'm making 3 holes in the dry ingredients. So as you can see here, I will now be adding the wet ingredients to the dry mixture, one by one into each of the holes. So in the first hole, we'll be adding the 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, which will not only add depth but warmth to our cake. And then the second hole, I will be adding 1 teaspoon of vinegar, which will react with the baking soda to neutralize it and add leavening to our cake. And then in the third hole, I will be adding 5 tablespoons of melted butter. And after I've added the melted butter, we will now add the 1 cup of warm water, and we will pour the warm water over our cake or our batter, sorry. And after that, we will mix all the ingredients together until it's well incorporated. But you don't want to overmix the batter. As I stated before, if we overmix the batter, it will not be good. We want to minimize the formation of bonds between the gluten proteins. So here I am just making sure the cake is even. And now, as we will go to the oven, make sure it's preheated to 350 degrees. And we will add the pan in the oven. However, make sure you do put a cookie sheet under the cake. I added it afterwards, but And as the cake is baking, we will make the icing. And so for the icing, we're going to need 1/4 cup of butter and 2 cups of powdered sugar, refined to smaller particles. That way it's not as rough and the icing can be very smooth. And we will be adding milk to the icing to moisten it up. And you can add half a teaspoon at a time until you get the perfect consistency. And here I'm just checking up on the cake to make sure it's cooked, and perfect, it is cooked. And now we will let the cake fully cool at room temperature. I just put it over my stove, and make sure you turn off the oven. If you don't wait for the cake to fully cool, this will happen. Some parts of the cake will fall out first because it's too hot. So just let your cake cool for about 20 to 25 minutes. And as you can see here, our cake fluffed up, which is due to the chemical reaction from the baking powder. And now you can cut up the cake and add your icing to your liking. And that is it. That is the complete recipe of how to make wacky cake.